Think of the Vikings. Their longships, their raids, their legendary seafaring skills. For centuries, they were the undisputed masters of the northern seas. But what if I told you that the story of Scandinavian naval power began long before the first Viking ever set sail? I'm talking about a tradition so ancient it rewrites our understanding of prehistoric warfare and technology. Today, we're diving deep into the mystery of the Hjortspring boat, the oldest plank-built vessel ever found in northern Europe. Discovered in a Danish bog over a century ago, this incredible artifact has puzzled archaeologists and historians for decades. It's more than just a boat. It's a time capsule, a snapshot of a violent and pivotal moment in history that happened over 2,000 years ago. Who built this sophisticated war canoe? Where did they come from? And what became of the warriors who sailed it? For years, the answers were buried in the mud and peat of the past. But now, thanks to groundbreaking new scientific analysis, the secrets of the Hjortspring boat are finally coming to the surface. And what they reveal is a story of advanced craftsmanship, long-distance naval expeditions, and a culture of seafaring warriors that existed centuries before the dawn of the Viking Age. This isn't just about an old boat. It's about the very origins of Scandinavian maritime dominance. The story begins in 1921 on the small Danish island of Als. Workers digging for peat in the Hjortspring bog stumbled upon something extraordinary, a massive deposit of ancient weapons. Swords, shields, and spears, all deliberately broken and sacrificed. And beneath them lay the prize jewel, the remains of a 62-foot-long watercraft. It was a clinker-built canoe, meaning its planks overlapped, a technique that would later define the iconic Viking longships. This vessel, now known as the Hjortspring boat, was radiocarbon dated to around 350 BC, placing it firmly in the pre-Roman Iron Age. That makes it over 1,000 years older than the earliest Viking ships we know of. It was a war machine, designed for speed and stealth, capable of carrying a crew of around 24 warriors. The sheer number of weapons found with it enough to equip an army of 130 men suggested this was the aftermath of a major battle. The prevailing theory was that a local Danish chieftain had defeated an invading force and then offered their weapons and their warship to the gods as a thank you. It was a story of a successful defense against foreign invaders. For a long time, that's where the story ended. The invaders were anonymous, their origins a complete mystery, but that's the beautiful thing about science. Just when we think we know the story, a new tool, a new technique, can turn everything on its head. A team of researchers, led by the National Museum of Denmark, decided to revisit the Hjortspring find. They weren't looking at the wood of the boat this time, but at something far more subtle, the tar. The seams of the Hjortspring boat were sealed with a resin-based tar to make it waterproof. For a long time, it was assumed this tar was made from local pine trees. It just made sense, right? Why would you import something as basic as tar? But the scientists used a technique called strontium isotope analysis. Stay with me, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Strontium is an element found in rocks and soil. Its isotopic signature, like a geological fingerprint, varies from place to place. Plants, like trees, absorb this strontium from the soil. So by analyzing the strontium in the tar, you can trace it back to the specific region where the trees that produced it grew. It's like a made-in label from 2,000 years ago. The team took tiny, precious samples of the tar from the boat's seams. They analyzed them, expecting the results to point to the forests of Denmark, or maybe somewhere in southern Norway. What they found instead was a complete shock. The strontium signature didn't match anything in Denmark. It didn't match southern Norway. Instead, it was a perfect match for the geological profile of the Baltic coast, in what is now modern-day Poland or the nearby region. Let that sink in. The tar used to build this warship, found in Denmark, came from trees that grew hundreds of kilometers away across the open sea. This wasn't a local raiding party. This was a long-distance naval expedition. The warriors who sailed the Hjortspring boat didn't just pop over from a neighboring island. They organized a major offensive, traveling across the treacherous Baltic Sea to launch their attack. This completely flips the old narrative on its head. The Hjortspring warriors weren't just some unknown raiders. They were part of a sophisticated maritime society on the southern Baltic coast, that had the resources and the know-how to build advanced warships and mount invasions far from their own shores. This level of organization, of seafaring skill, was previously thought to have emerged much, much later with the Vikings. The boat itself tells us even more. It wasn't a crude dugout canoe. It was built from 5 wide lime tree planks, sewn together with bast cords. This technique is incredibly flexible and strong, perfect for a lightweight, fast-moving vessel. It didn't have a sail, so it was powered purely by the paddles of its 20-man crew, who sat on thwarts or benches along the boat. A steersman at the front and another at the back would guide it using large steering oars. Imagine the sight, a sleek, silent canoe over 60 feet long, slicing through the water, filled with armed warriors. It would have been a terrifying and awe-inspiring spectacle. The design suggests it was built for amphibious assaults, for hit-and-run raids on coastal communities. They could paddle silently into a bay, launch their attack, and be gone before a proper defense could be mounted. Sound familiar? It's the exact same tactic that would make the Vikings so feared 1,000 years later. So, this new study doesn't just tell us where the Hjortspring warriors came from. It tells us that the Viking way of war didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was the culmination of a very, very old tradition. A tradition of Scandinavian seafaring and maritime warfare that was already well established by 350 BC. These Iron Age warriors were the prototypes, the pioneers who laid the foundation for the naval dominance that would later define the region. But what about the battle itself? What happened on that fateful day on the Island of Owls? The evidence in the bog paints a grim picture. The victorious locals gathered every piece of the defeated army's equipment. Their swords were bent, their shields smashed, their spears snapped in two. This wasn't just random destruction. It was a ritual killing of the objects, rendering them useless in the human world so they could be offered to the supernatural one. And then they took the enemy's warship, their pride and their means of attack, and sank it in the sacred waters of the bog. It was the ultimate victory statement. They didn't just defeat their enemies. They erased them, absorbing their power and offering it to their gods. We don't know who the defenders were, but they were powerful enough to repel a significant seaborne invasion. The story of the Hjortspring boat is a powerful reminder that history is never a closed book. It's a dynamic, shifting puzzle, and with every new discovery, every new scientific breakthrough, the picture becomes a little clearer. We now know that the roots of the Viking Age run deeper than we ever imagined, back to a time of Baltic Sea Kings and their ambitious long-range campaigns. It shows a connected world where people, ideas, and technologies traveled vast distances. The builders of the Hjortspring boat were not isolated tribes. They were part of a wider network, capable of sourcing materials from afar and projecting their military power across the sea. They were, in every sense, the true forefathers of the Vikings. So, the next time you see a depiction of a Viking longship, remember the Hjortspring boat. Remember the unknown warriors who paddled it across the Baltic and the Danish defenders who sent it to its watery grave. Their story, lost for over 2 millennia, is a testament to the incredible ingenuity and ancient maritime heritage of the Scandinavian people. It's a story that continues to unfold, one scientific discovery at a time. What do you think about this incredible discovery? Does it change how you see the Vikings and their predecessors? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We love diving into these historical mysteries, and your insights are a huge part of the conversation. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the secrets of our past. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.